become whole and complete with all of your past decisions. Because when you know more, you do more. And you made all your decisions based on what you knew at the time. And you can't measure the man or woman you are based on the decision you made back then, based on what you know now. You didn't know then what you know now. Most people want to ensure the fly so much that they never jump. So if you're in the proving, protecting, defending, or hiding business, you're going to hold yourself back all the time because you don't want to show up as anything other than perfect. In 1994, if I pick a moment, I was broke and broken. And I knew that being broke was easier than being broken. Being broke, I just need to go find out how to make money. Being broken, I need to find the willpower and the desire to get up and the belief in myself to tell someone I was worthy of being paid. That was the hardest journey. And I had my son in 1994, which it was a combination of the most beautiful time in my life and the lowest point in my life, because it was the time that I had something outside of me, my child, something that I saw my heart for the first time outside of my chest. And I was willing to kill away my ego or my she-go for this child. And I had to 8 months after he was born, when I had to go get on government's assistance. And I had to stand in the line and ask someone to help me pay my bills and to help me feed my child. And it was one of the most humbling experiences of my life because I was very independent. I'd been working since I was 14. And at 28, I hit a place that I didn't know was rock bottom until I kept feeling something on my back going, I think that's the bottom through circumstances, you know. And one of those circumstances was when he was 8 months old, I ran out of Pampers and I went to the ATM to get $20 out to get my son Jelani Pampers, and it said insufficient funds. And I was just saying the other day, I was delivering a sermon at a church, and I said, I was interviewed 155 times in a 5-month period. Because I was the first woman in the self-development industry to get paid $1 million to write one book. And it just created a lot of buzz, and I'm very grateful for it. And everyone kept asking me the same question: what did you do? What did you do? What was the moment? What was the moment? And everyone was looking for a moment. So I started looking for a moment, like, what was the moment? Because it wasn't a moment. But if I had to give it a moment, I said to a lot of people that interviewed me, I said, listen, I don't know if you remember that thing that made you decide, but I remember that thing that made me decide. It said $11.42. That I looked at that balance, and it was at 7-Eleven. I'll never forget. That's how broken my life was. I was banking at 7-Eleven. I was just going to the ATM, paying all the extra charges because I didn't even want to go to the bank. I knew I had some NSF checks there, so just everything was in chaos. And I saw 1142, and I didn't know at the time that was my moment. But when I look back at it, because everyone kept asking me, what was the moment? The thing that comes in my head was 1142, and then what happened after that? I had to wrap my son Jelani in a series of towels.
Wow.
For 2 days. And, you know, someone asked me on another occasion, because every time I tell the story, tears come up. And they said, you've told the story so much. Do you ever just like make the tears come up to make the moment more important? I said, no, I'm a mama. Every time I tell the story, I'm a mama who had to wrap her son in a towel for 2 days. I don't get excited about telling the story, but I owe you the story because you see public company. I run a multi-million-dollar business. I travel the world. I inspire people. I live a first-class life. But you want to know, more importantly, how did I get there and what was the inspiration? 1142. It was my moment, and I didn't know how to get out of there. It didn't happen overnight when I decided I'm done. There was the ceiling didn't open up and lights didn't come down and angels singing and all of a sudden everything got great. No, nothing changed in my life but my mind. I was bankrupt, and I love to use the word bankrupt because bankrupt means there ain't nothing left. I'm done with this version. I'm ready to press reset. I was bankrupt with being broken. So I began to search. I became an explorer. I mean, and I wasn't in school, I was a C average student. I never got above a C plus. I wasn't extraordinary in anything except for track. I just gotta say, I was state champion for the record. I held the 330 low hurdle records for 18 years at my high school. I'm just gonna say, but academically, I didn't surpass anything other than average. Academically, I struggled for 12 years in school. I was considered right above special ed. I found out in my 20s that it was primarily because I'm severely dyslexic.
Wow.
But I didn't know my dyslexia. Now I use my dyslexia for my advantage.
Yeah.
I teach holistically.
Yes.
I go both directions when I teach, right? But then I didn't know. And so 11:42, wrapping my son in Pampers and towels until I can afford to buy him Pampers was my moment. And then I became an explorer of information. I knew that if my external circumstance was going to change, I had to learn what I didn't know. I had to learn what I didn't know because I was already using everything I knew, and what I knew was getting me this, what I was receiving. So apparently, people must know something I don't know, and I just literally someone who didn't. I mean, the last time I took an English class, I got a fail. The last time I took a speech class, I got a D-. And my English teacher told me I was the weakest writer she had ever met in her entire life, in front of the entire class, in front of the entire class. And my speech teacher said, Ms. Nichols, quote unquote, I recommend that you never speak in public, that you get a desk job. I kid you not. I kid you not. I kid you not.
Crazy.
So I had no confirmation of who I could become, other than my mom and my dad. And they were just like, look, have a good life and don't struggle too much. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you can have everything. It was just don't struggle too much. And when I told my dad I want to be a motivational speaker, he was like, well, what is that? Is that a real job? Does that come with benefits? You get vacation? Can you feed your baby on that? Like it wasn't even a created environment. Now it is. Now it's getting hot. It's popular. But it didn't come with any structure. And so I was bankrupt in who I had become. So I was willing to reinvent Lisa. I was willing to kill away any part of Lisa that was going to hold me back from being the woman that I hadn't even met yet. Now, that's a big statement because when you kill away, that means you have to sign up for being in constant disruption for a very long time. And you also have to sign up to walk by yourself for a very long time, possibly. And so I was okay with that. I was okay with that. It was scary, but I knew that I could not sentence myself and my son to a future that looked and resembled this. So I got a glimpse in a very real way at 7-Eleven, 11:42, of the life I wasn't willing to live and the future I wasn't willing to repeat. So all I kept looking for are new experiences that didn't repeat this, new experiences that didn't look like this, and the further away from what I knew I could get. And I wasn't physically away. I was still living in Inglewood. I was still driving down Martin Luther King Boulevard, Inglewood and house. I'm still driving my same little Citation. I had a car that was so old, it didn't have two seats. It had the one seat. Remember them old cars? They had the one seat.
We drove one of them too.
My grandmother had the car, and it was a hand-me-down. I was grateful for it. And, I couldn't turn left. And when I turned left, it got stuck, and then it came unstuck, and then it was dangerous. Everything on my left side because the car would swerve. And I was okay with that. I was going to drive that bucket to my future. If I needed to. I was okay with disrupting everything for the sake of something unfamiliar, an unfamiliar possibility. Now, I want to be clear. I wasn't running from my past. I bring it with me. That's how you know. You know about it in my books. You know about it when I'm on stage. I'm okay. I own all Lisa, every single aspect of Lisa. 8 months after that moment, my son's father went to prison. And my son is 23, and my son's father is still in prison today. And I had the journey of pulling the blessing out of that, and understanding what was that about, and finding forgiveness in my heart, and not using that as a crutch, and so I had all these beautiful gifts that came wrapped in sandpaper. I had beautiful gifts that came wrapped in sandpaper, and some took me a month to understand, and some took me 10 years to get to the gift because the sandpaper was so thick.
One of the things that I'm also hearing in the story is something that we often do, which you made a decision to follow a path to find happiness and to find success.
Yes.
But so many of us postpone happiness.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We wait for a moment in time. Something has to happen in order for us to be happy. And to me, happy isn't something that you go and find. You can't Google download happy. Happy grows from you. Happy grows from a moment. And happiness isn't something you arrive at, and it's a destination that you stay at. Happiness is something that you seek to evoke and emanate and grow and experience and touch as much as possible. And you're willing to leave it to revisit it. Happiness comes in freedom. Whenever something is rigid and it has to stay, then You just left happiness because now you have to stay at happiness. Happiness is a place that you move in and out of. It expands and it contracts with you. Happiness is something you can measure. I always say I'm as happy when I look at my child. I'm as happy as his saddest day sometimes because he's my heart outside of me. And then I detach from him. I let him define his happiness and I watch, but there's never a moment I'm not connected to my child. And so if he's going through a dark part, there's a part of me that is always with him, so, and happiness is not something that someone else can gift you. Happiness is not something your wife can give you. Happiness is something your wife can celebrate and elevate with you. Your children can celebrate and elevate with you. Happiness is something that you sit and you look at, you touch, you breathe. Happiness is something you take a step away from and you look over there and say, what makes me happy? I just spent 32 days in Barcelona. You had to wait till I came back from Barcelona to make this happen. And I went to Barcelona for to put my life in 3 buckets. To put my life in, the first bucket was, this makes me really happy and I want to live like I choose it. You know how you can get to a place where things are coasting? I don't want to coast. If I'm madly in love with the time that I spent with my grandmother, then I want to be madly in love with it when I see my grandma. So last night, before getting on the plane and coming to you, I was in the living room dancing with my grandmother. I put on some of her favorite songs. You would be surprised. My grandmother loves Tupac, India.Arie, and Alicia Keys. I don't understand it.
Hey,
but amen.
no judgment zone.
Right.
Go ahead,
My
Grandma.
grandmother, she was like, which one you gonna put on, baby? I haven't heard Tupac in a while.
I'm a straight rider.
Right. Exactly. So and I just danced with her in the living room because that just brings a sense of joy that's I can't explain. I can't explain what dancing with my grandmother does for me. And the second bucket, so the first bucket is to choose what I want in my life, what I love in my life, and then to re-choose it powerfully and to let it be seen in evidence of how I show up with it, that I chose it and I choose it versus just coasting. The second bucket that I put my life in Barcelona was I choose this, but it needs modification. It needs modification. Like I love it, but it needs modification because I'm tolerating some things in this experience that I would be happier if I didn't tolerate. But I want it. I just need modifications. I need some things to shift. I need some experiences in this experience to shift. And then the third bucket was I choose to release it. That our time is complete. The experience of living in overwhelm, the experience of saying yes when I want to say no, the experience of wanting to be liked and loved by everybody. The experience of opening my doors to everyone who knocks on the door and says, I need to come in. The owning my no so that my yes can become more valuable. The experience of some people in my life, that our season is complete. Like I put my entire life in 3 areas. I choose you, and I want to live like I chose you. I choose you, but I need to adjust this experience so it can feel better for the both of us, at least for me. I don't know how you're doing it, but I need it to feel better. And then I choose to release this. Behaviors, thoughts, actions, and people. So I spent 32 days in Barcelona having that experience so that I can keep revisiting happy and stay in and live and not expecting happiness to always be there as prevalent as those moments when I'm dancing with my grandmother.
Right.
And to allow it to be fluid and flexible in my life. And to allow happiness to move away from me at times so that I can honor it and own it more.
Yeah.
And not to expect and assume.
It makes so much sense. I think that it's kind of ingrained in our culture because of movies and things like that. We have these very romantic ideas of, for example, like the Jerry Maguire, you complete me.
Yes.
When we have 2 incomplete people getting together, it's going to be some serious drama.
Right.
And not even putting that on another person and understanding that we're responsible for our own happiness.
Right.
But thinking of those 3 buckets, we've been talking a lot, and I've brought on some of the top people in the world just on exercising your no muscle.
Yes.
Right? So we talked with James Altucher, who wrote the book, The Power of No, instead of The Power of Now, and also Michael Hyatt, and talking about having those standards, because the reality is I think one of our big issues is that we think we have more time than we do, and to really take advantage of our life and this human experience and to have our standards, for what we're willing to take on, for what we're willing to accept, and for, where we're headed. And it's not that we don't love those situations, those people, the environment, it's still gratitude there. But you can't take everybody with you as well. And everybody doesn't want to come,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And I used to have this kind of mentality of like, we're not leaving till everybody's on the
Right.
bus.
I'm gonna help everybody. I'm gonna help you, help yourself. Right.
Yeah.
And the reality is when you look at why we do what we do. Like, I love the study of the human mind. I love the study of behavior. Right. And when we say yes, when we want to say no, when our ego flexes, it comes from 4 areas is what I've reduced. And when you realize that these 4 areas are false, and they're just false illusions that you made real, then you operate differently. So whenever my students step on my campus, I say, listen, it's gonna take you years to get to here, but let's talk about where we want to get to. I want to get to a place where you have nothing to prove. You have nothing to protect. You have nothing to hide, and you have nothing to defend. Now, each one of those are big because we live in proving that we're smart enough, proving that we're good enough. Women, we want to prove that we're equal to men. Blacks want to prove that we're just as smart as that white guy. I mean, it goes across cultural lines, it goes across geographical lines, it goes across economic lines. We live in proving. But if you can begin and just start now, I don't know when you'll get there, but start now, living like you have nothing to prove.
Yeah.
There's an elevated sense of freedom. Then, if you can live like you have nothing to hide, like there are no secrets. There are no skeletons in my closet because I opened the closet door and I dragged them all out and I brought them with me, because when you get me, you get that. And I'm whole and complete with who I am. Like, I've fallen in love with the darkest part of myself. And when you can fall in love with the darkest part of yourself, your insecurities, your need to be loved, your need to be approved, your need to be embraced, your lack of clarity, your dyslexia, if you can fall in love with the darkest part of yourself and bring him or her with you into every experience, not wearing it, not putting it out in front of you, but just, by the way, I went on a date once, and the first part of the day I said, so let me tell you all the stuff I don't want you to find out about me, so I can not try to hide all that,
Yeah.
Right. And then, then he fell in love. Then I had to figure that out because I wasn't in love. So, but if you can bring that with you, so there's nothing to hide. The third is there's nothing to protect. There's nothing to protect. There's no image to protect. Now that my brand is, a global brand, there's always this conversation of brand management. And I go, let me always be a part of that conversation with my PR rep, with my manager. Let me be a part, because my version of brand protection and your idea of brand protection might be different. And I'm committed to helping you see what's important to me, because brand protection is not about hiding. Brand protection is not about defending. Brand protection is about standing in my authentic truth at all times. So I have some health things. I hope we'll talk about that. I've had some health transition, and that was a big deal conversation in my camp. Like, how are you going to tell people and what's going to happen? And I was like, hold on. The truth is sexy.
Yes.
The truth is so sexy. Oh my God. I'm so attracted to someone who says, so listen, here are my issues. Now, if you can work with that, we're cool. Like if you want, don't try to hide them. Just tell me what we're working with. And so nothing to prove, nothing to protect, nothing to hide, and nothing to defend. There's nothing to defend.
It sounds like a tough one.
It is.
Yeah.
Because our natural ego wants to defend. Our ego will rise up and say, I got this. And it's your humanity and your humility and your servant leadership that will say, hold on, I'll take care of this.
Yeah.
And when you can apologize and fall on the sword on behalf of your brother or your sister, when you can love the perceivingly unlovable, when you can love the perceivingly unlovable, and you can forgive the perceivingly unforgivable, that society will give you permission to not forgive, you forgive it anyway. That society will tell you, you don't have to love that, you love it anyway. And you don't just love and forgive, you love and forgive out loud. That's when you have an elevated sense of freedom. And that's when you become a change agent. And your life has a timeline, but your legacy doesn't.
Oh, I love that. Infinite. I feel that a big part of our struggles to have happiness, to find success that we all really desire, has to do with our lack of a sense of value, and I feel that we continuously undervalue ourselves, downgrade and degrade ourselves because we don't understand our inherent value. And I would love if you could share any insights that you have on how do we actually start to understand our value, because I think that it's something that it's an epidemic right now, and people don't really understand how much they matter.
Right. Well, I believe that in this climate, and I think it happened before, it existed before, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, but now more than ever, we listen to the noise. That my grandmother says, other people's perception of you ain't none of your business. That who you woke up as this morning has to be enough, irregardless of the activities of the day. And so if you look at who do I see myself before anything else happens, am I whole and complete inside of my imperfection? Especially with social media, you look for the likes. You know, I was just saying in the message I was delivering the other day in church that my job, your job, is to get up and like you. And every other like on Facebook is bonus. But you liked you first. Yeah. And I think the journey to liking you, the journey to getting to that place, that's where everyone's seeking. That's what people seek when they step on my campus. That's what people seek. And ideally, we watch people get to that point when they've studied with us for a while. And what that looks like is, if you want to know, in my opinion, the first thing to do is to become whole and complete with every decision you've ever made. Because we're holding ourselves hostage to our past decisions, actions, behaviors, the things we did that we felt we shouldn't do, and the things that we felt we should have taken a leap on that we didn't take a leap on. So one, become whole and complete with all of your past decisions. Because when you know more, you do more. And you made all your decisions based on what you knew at the time. And you can't measure the man or woman you are based on the decision you made back then, based on what you know now. You didn't know then what you know now. If I knew then at 29 what I know now at 51, excitedly my 51, I wouldn't have made those decisions. But I knew what I knew. And so I did what I did based on what I knew. So one, become whole and complete with all your decisions. Two, recognize that forgiveness is not about pardoning anyone else in your life. Decision is about opening up more internal real estate for love and possibility in yourself. So I think forgiveness of yourself and forgiveness of others. So if you ask me the two things, one is to become whole and complete with your decisions and your actions from 20 years ago. Become whole and complete with those because you knew what you knew. That's why you did what you did. And two, recognize that forgiveness is not about pardoning a behavior. It's not about giving. It's not about giving acceptance to what occurred. It's about opening up more real estate in your body, in your heart, and in your soul for what's possible in the future, because two things can't occupy the same space. So where there's hate, anger, shame, blame, there cannot be love and possibility. Those two things, if you just focus on those two things, I can give you a list of 12 things, but those two can keep you busy.
Right.
So laser focus. We often operate like a floodlight, trying to cover a whole lot of ground when we should operate like a laser. Let me penetrate this. Let me master this. Let me heal this. Let me go back. When I decided to forgive my son's father, that's all I worked on for a year. That's every exercise I did was about him because I didn't want to keep touching it for the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. Now I have a beautiful relationship with him. I spotlighted him at my conference. He calls me on the phone. I tell him, call me from prison. He calls me on the phone. I put him on the mic system. I spotlight him. He's written 14 books in prison. Like now I use him as the model example for get it done no matter where you are. Yeah. Because I did the work. I forgave myself. I was in an abusive relationship where my fiance at the time picked me up and threw me 3 feet across the room. And then he choked me until I passed out. 13 years later, I ran into him at a conference. I couldn't go to his state. I was so afraid that I would run into him. Yeah. And he's 6'9", 310 pounds. He was huge. So he was physically imposing as well as physically imposing in my life. And I did the work on him. I did the work on him for 9 straight years. 9 straight years. So when I ran into him, he came to my conference, so it was very intentional. He came to ask for my forgiveness. And I said, I needed to give myself life. So I forgave you a long time ago for me. So you just need to forgive you because I already did the work. I had no angst or energy or anger around him. I felt a little uncomfortable, but there was no residual anger because I had to fall madly in love with Lisa. The woman you see sitting here is simply the result of saying, what does it look like to fall madly in love with me? And not in a bragging way, not in a way that spews onto other people, but in a way that I say every day I'm going to give myself a chance. Every day I get to press reset. I get to press reset 1,000 times. And when I get to 999, I get to press reset on the reset button. And what happens if I did that? And so you're right. Valuing who I show up to be means pardoning myself from all my choices that I've been judging and I've had shame around. And then it also means forgiving myself and others for the times in which their actions didn't align with their heart. Yeah. I think it's those two things, accepting and forgiving. And those have been the two biggest things in my life. I do this exercise called Expose the Lies. I get a pencil and a red pen and a lot of paper. And in pencil, I write down every lie I'm telling myself that don't nobody else hear, but I know it because I'm with me. And I write down all my lies around money, all my lies around relationship, all my lies around my physical appearance, all my lies around my family, and I have a lot of them because the bigger you play, the more lies you have, by the way. So don't get all caught up beating yourself up if you have 7 pages of lies. The bigger you play, the bigger your breakdowns. Bottom line, just be okay with that. If you ain't having breakdowns, you ain't playing big enough. Your job is to walk through them breakdowns, right? And people sitting on the couch every day watching whatever, Housewives or somebody, they're not having a lot of breakdowns because they're not up to a lot. That's okay. No judgment. So I would write down all my lies in pencil. And I would sit and, I'm crying, ugly cry down my lies. And I'd put this in my first book. Writing down the lies, expose the lies in pencil, write down all the lies.
Give me an example of a lie.
Oh, yeah, money is hard to make.
Yes.
I can give you I'll never have a long-lasting love. I make too much money for men to really see me as their equal and to really value me and to get into a loving relationship. My family will always think that I'm different because I travel the world and I'm around a lot of white people all the time. Yeah. Like all the stuff is stupid stuff, but it's true. It's in your head. It's the chatter in your head going on in your head all the time. It's my children, my son.
We might call it alternative facts today.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
But we all tell ourselves these lies and to expose them. I love that.
Right. Because in your head, they got a lot of power because they're just between these ears in your head. But out here in the world, they're so small. You go, as you're writing the lie, you're laughing. Like I'll write the lie and go, that's so stupid. But it has value and power in your head. So I've been doing this for years. All my students who step on my campus, I go, come on, y'all, let's do expose the lies. And so we just write in pencil. You write the lie in pencil and you skip 4 lines if it's on line paper, or you skip a space if it's on blank paper, and then you write another lie, and we'll just sit quietly for like 45 minutes. Everybody's like, I put on some like nice healing music because you're gonna feel like you're sludging through your mud, and then you feel like a fraud, then you feel shame, then you feel guilt, and you're writing these lies and it feels ugly. Then I say, get out the red pen, and now write the truth, and everyone gets stuck. I don't know what the truth is. Okay, but you knew that was a lie. Because you wrote it down. You chose it. You chose it as a lie. So that means there is a truth that exists out there somewhere. You don't have to believe the truth today, but you know that there is a truth because you identified that as a lie. So write the truth whether you can own it now or not. So then everyone's writing the truth in red ink. Then I tell them for one day, read the lie and the truth together, because neuro-linguistic programming says that if you do an association, your mind will naturally jump to the association. So the last time you told yourself that lie, there was nothing there to counter it with. But the next time after reading lie, truth, lie, truth, lie, truth, lie, truth, right? You do that. If you really want to cement it, you do it 3 times. The next time you read the lie, your brain will naturally see the truth in that red ink. It's juicy stuff. So then you read the lie, the truth, the lie, the truth, so that now you have an association with the truth. Right. The next time the lie comes up, right? Then the final step is you take an eraser, a big eraser, and you erase all the lies that's written in pencil. And so I do that. I would constantly do that. I've done that exercise for like the last 9 years. I'm consistent to do it. I used to do it once a month because stuff would come up. And now I do it like every 8-9 months. I just write, okay, what are my lies? What are my lies? I'm in a new relationship. Okay, new lies just came up.
Right.
And of course I'm in a relationship that's international. So he's in another country. So I'm like, I can't make an international relationship work. Okay, that's the lie. Now what do I need? What's the truth?
Right.
And the truth is I can make anything work because I have time freedom, space freedom, and financial freedom. What are you talking about, chick?
Yeah.
Right?
As we, and you said it, as you grow and evolve, it
Yes.
becomes more, you get more of that,
Yes.
BIG said more money, more problems,
Right,
but
right.
really as we grow and achieve more success, it's easy to start coasting.
Absolutely.
And so to do this practice, to keep yourself accountable so you can keep reaching your potential,
Yes.
which is limitless.
Yes.
I really love that. And, there's a term for that as well. It's called acrasia. It's where we work against our better judgment. It's where we work against our knowledge of what actually is truth.
Yes.
And so often we will fight to protect our lives.
Yes.
Right. And so when we wake up to that, when we
Break
become
down
aware,
the house, break down the relationships, break down the job. It will all go to
Yes.
crap to protect our lives.
and time is what I want people to understand is that time is going to pass anyways.
Right.
So you might as well spend your time working on your truth
Right.
than on the lie.
Well, and the truth is sexy. The truth is
Yeah, I love
attractive.
that.
If you look at my brand is not a brand of protection. My brand is a brand of truth. It's a brand of transparency. Someone said, what if they find this out about you? I said, well, if they tell the story wrong, I'm going to correct them and tell the story right. Like, I don't know if you remember way back in the day. You might not know. I don't know how old you are. You may not know. But way back in the day, the Phil Donahue show used to come on.
Donahue.
And Phil Donahue used to bust people out. He loved busting people out. You'd have someone on stage saying, yeah, I stopped drinking 20 years ago and now I live a clean life. And then Phil say, well, you know what? We happen to have on the phone someone who was in the bar with you last weekend. Like Phil Donahue would bust people out. And I always said, I will never have a Phil Donahue moment because I'm going to sit on stage and say, I had a drink last week, but today is a new day. Can I get a new chance? Like that's who I choose to be, which is why I knew last year at my conference, I stood in front of about 1,100 people between those who were live in my room and those who were online. And I shared the story of my health journey. And I shared that I had surgery because I wanted to share my truth and I wanted it to come from me. And at the time I wasn't ready for it to be public. And I asked everyone in that conference, it was about 600 people in the room and about another 700 people online. I said, could we just keep this between us right now until I'm ready? Do you know it's been a year and a half. Not one person has mentioned it online.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Isn't that
when you
amazing?
share your
when
truth.
you share your truth. And here's what the last thing that I want to share with you is people want to be convenienced. They want growth and convenience. They want expansion and convenience. And the moment it becomes challenging, they want to quit. My grandmother says, baby. She starts every sentence with baby. I'm sure it's because she can't remember our names. 'Cause it's a lot of us.
Yeah.
She says, baby, your conviction and your convenience don't live on the same block. She said, you have to be willing to be mildly, to moderately, to significantly inconvenience for that thing that you have a conviction for, that thing that you're passionate about, or at least tell the truth and say you really didn't want it in the first place. But don't sit here and complain and then quit when it gets hard, because everything on the other side of your possible is everything on the other side of what you thought was possible is the impossible waiting to happen in your life. But you will never find your next best version of you sitting inside your comfort zone. So I'm amazed at how many people come to me and they tell me the list of what they want. Then when I give them the what to do, they go, well, that's hard. And then I look at them. And you know me, I'm edgy. I just give them a look. I said, did you think I was going to give you the easy route? And I didn't, and I don't know it for myself. There's no easy in transformation, but you can decide what you want to call difficult. See, I welcome challenging because I know when I do that thing I don't want to do and I say that thing I don't want to say, I access the woman I've always known myself to be. I'll start with the statement, personal permission. So I'm going to start with that statement, and then I'm going to follow it with holding themselves hostage to an old conversation and an old awareness and a familiar discomfort. So much so that it feels impossible to replace a familiar discomfort with an unfamiliar new possibility. Now, I'll give you some context to that. When we're sitting inside of a familiar discomfort, and by the way, discomfort isn't just from lack, discomfort isn't just from fear. A discomfort could be, I know I've outgrown this place. Though you might be impressed with me, though I might have accolades and BAs and AAs and MBAs and PhDs or whatever I have, I've outgrown this season.
what I see most, I work a lot with leadership, women in leadership, men in leadership. And while leadership is beautiful, they've outgrown their current leadership and they've been there for a while. But the reason why they haven't moved is because they're more committed to a familiar, keyword is familiar, Shawn, familiar discomfort, which discomfort could also be you're ready to grow and you're not, than they are to an unfamiliar, keyword is unfamiliar, new possibility. Because one is familiar, even though I don't really care for it anymore. The other is unfamiliar, and the unfamiliar, unknown, uncharted turf makes me hesitate. That's the number one reason that I see is we want everything to be familiar. We want evidence before we go. We want you to predict the future that I'm for sure going to make it before I take a step. And you can't do that in new possibility. You can project, you can strategize, you can action plan, you can get teamed up. And then you, at some level, you got to take the jump at the possibility that you'll fly or at the possibility that you'll fall. But most people want to ensure the fly so much that they never jump.
Oh my goodness. So you just said something really powerful, which is we want to bring this Miss Cleo vibe to it, to be able to, I can see the future. I see what's going to happen and get that level of certainty before we act. And truly, and you know this, you've been around some of the most successful people on planet Earth, and it's really about going into the unknown. That's what the most successful people are doing.
Yes. Being willing to take the risk on you. Being willing to take the risk on it. Being willing to recognize that there is a chance. ... We're trying to control the outcome and take away the chance. There is a chance, ... And so most of us want to be insured. That's why entrepreneurs for 25 years ago, a lot of us were considered crazy because there was no trapeze net. Like you're flying with your family in the air. You probably heard it. You want to do these things and there's no net. Well, here's the reality. Can you trust your fly or can you trust your get up? Now that's the thing. Is that most people think when they fall, there's no get up. The difference between me and most, and I'm not perfect, I'm still in this journey, is that I trust my get up. I won't always say I'm a fly, because Lord knows my failures these days are 6 figures, 7 figures, and require an attorney. And I still, and they're big. And when I've been paying for the same poor decision for 5 years. I've been paying for it. Like my attorney told me it was going to cost me $300,000 to $500,000 to fix it. We're at 1.7 million. And so you still fall. But if you're willing to trust your get up, and most people are still wondering if they're get up, or the other part, Shawn, is they're trying to protect the fall because they still want to prove to someone that they won't fall. So if you're in the proving, protecting, defending, or hiding business, proving, protecting, defending, or hiding business, you're going to hold yourself back all the time because you don't want to show up as anything other than perfect.
We got to talk about those right there.
Prove, protect, defend, or hide.
Okay, so the proving, a lot of us, of course, and this can be rooted in our childhood. We're trying to prove to our parent. We are trying to prove to our friends. So I definitely see that one. But I want to talk more about the rest of those too, because those just hit my spirit.
Yes. Prove, protect, hide, or defend. So most of us grow into that naturally. We don't even know that we naturally kind of graduate into it, and you have to take yourself out of it with intention. It's not a normal conscious thing to not have prove, protect, defend, or hide inside your space. So society sets us up to compete. Society sets us up to compare. Society sets us up unless you choose to opt out. I opt out. So when you talk about protecting, you're protecting your perception of how the world needs to see you. When you're proving that you're smart enough, good enough, wise enough. When you're hiding, most people are constantly hiding their insecurities. You're hiding your need. If you think your need is making you seem more vulnerable, you're hiding your vulnerability. That's why when you meet people, it's very difficult for them to open up and share immediately. That's why our tribe is so delicious, because we've learned how to open up and give me your real you faster, sooner, quicker, faster, right? But most people need to warm up for weeks and months because they're still hiding anything that they think may cause you to lose respect for them or not like them as much or not appreciate. And these are unconscious hides, just so you know. People don't consciously do this, right? So prove, protect, hide, or defend. A lot of us are defending an old limiting belief we had about ourselves or about someone else had about us. We're defending it in who we're being now. So I have a friend who, when he was little, his mother told him that don't wear white shirts because you get too dirty. Don't wear white shirts, you get too dirty. And as an adult, he says, I have 160 white shirts, still defending the fact that I get to wear a white shirt. Like, we operate as adults, still defending or proving, protecting or hiding, even stuff that we've outgrown years ago. Yeah. And that comes from the place of needing to be enough, needing to be accepted. I had someone the other day, my assistant reached out to her and was confirming something. And her response and my assistant called her by her first name. We do first names in my company. And this woman's response to my assistant was, please address me as Miss such and such. And if I wanted to talk to Lisa's assistant, I would have asked to talk to Lisa's assistant. I prefer to talk to Lisa. My assistant, her feelings were hurt. What I took her to was, before you live in hurt, what is it that she needs? And she said confirmation and validation. I said, so what could be the lack? She lacks being seen and being appreciated and being valued. I said, so let's give her what she needs. So my immediate response to her an email was, if my assistant reaching out to you in any form made you feel dismissed, I apologize. Wasn't my agenda. In order for you to get put on my calendar, it must go through my assistant because she manages my calendar. And so the first thing I did was gave her need to be validated. So when you, so the needs don't come up straight. Like, I mean, you know, it's not a needy portrayed need. It flexes in ego. It flexes in she-go. It comes out in being a super sister soldier. It comes out in being a dynamic, strong brother. It comes out in saying, I don't need help. Because you're still proving that you're good enough by yourself. Or you're still defending or protecting your fear of being abandoned. Do you know that a lot of people who say they don't need help, I don't want anyone, I can do it on my own, they're protecting their fear of being abandoned. Now, it doesn't come up that way. It comes up as strong, by myself, long ranger, solopreneur, right? Do it with myself, by myself. But really, underneath all of those contracting behaviors, every single contracting behavior is sourced with either need to prove, protect, defend, or hide.
This is so good, so powerful. These four, and I want to share this because you said something a little bit earlier about, you know, being a rogue idea. You know, 25 years ago, if you're an entrepreneur, you're just like, they're out here, they're just, you know, taking risks, they're wilding out, they need a safe job.
Responsible.
Be responsible. And so for me, this was 20 years ago now. It was knocking on the door 20 years. And I remember, you know, I was in college at the time, and I had this big revelation. My health had transformed. I was feeling good. Now people at my university were attracted to me, and they're asking me for help. So like my professors, fellow students, and they start becoming my clients, you know, so I became a strength and conditioning coach. And when I met this girl, so I was, quote, I was dating this girl. And when she met me, I had a job, you know, sometimes just over broke, you know, but I had this job. I was working at the arena there in our city. And also, of course, I was a college student. So it checked her boxes. And so when I told her, you know, she was asking like, so how's work going? I'm like, well, actually, I stopped doing that, and I'm really focused on working in the gym. And she was like, oh, so you have a hobby? And I was like, What? No, like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so what it was for me, and these four things, prove, protect, hiding, defending, none of those came up for me. And I could see that how they could have been there. But this is what I want to ask you about. What energy do we need to shift to? So for me, it was my excitement. It was my passion. It was my wanting to serve other people. Those were the energies that, like, it actually made it so that even her statement today it was funny. Even then it was funny. It was like, oh, you don't know.
Right.
So what energy do we shift to?
So it is the energy of excitement, the energy of certainty, that you can have certainty even while you're developing the plan. I'm not asking for certainty on the plan. I'm developing that. I have certainty on the outcome.
Yes.
So that energy of certainty is contagious. I remember I was doing an investor meeting early on. Now, mind you, my first company, 23 years ago, I measure by the age of my child. He was 3 years old when I started. He's 26 now. 23 years ago, I was raising capital for my company. Mind you, I'm raising money for motivating the teen spirit, teaching teens how to fall madly in love with themselves and how to make integrity-based decisions. So I'm raising money to sell an intangible called personal development to a body of people, teenagers between the age of 12 and 25, that we don't even know if they want to use the service, right? Think about it. So it was all uphill. And oh, by the way, I had no experience doing this. I just had a lot of passion, and I didn't have a degree that said it increased my credibility. Uphill battle, but I'm on fire, and I'm out there, and I have my shtick. And I got to tell you, I can remember my shtick today, Shawn. Hi, my name is Lisa Nichols. I'm the founder and creator of Motivating the Teen Spirit. We will teach teens how to fall madly in love with themselves and how to make integrity-based decisions. We're creating a training and development company that will transform teen lives one teen at a time. We will be to the teen community what McDonald's is to the burger community. Who do you know that wants to be a part of this? I just had my little thing, right? And so I was on fire. And the more I stepped into doing the work with teens, the more I was sold out on the work I could do with teens. So you got to be sold out. And when I say a spirit and an energy of sold out, which means I'm inviting you to jump on board. The train has already left the station. I'm not asking you to push the train. I'm inviting you to jump on the train. I'm stopping by to say, all aboard. And the train's going to leave with you or without you. So you can choose. When you have that energy, without saying that, you don't have to say the train's going to leave with you or without you. That's all in context. That's all in movement. I remember I was doing an investor meeting. Now, mind you, Shawn, everything was stacked against me. Everything was stacked against me. I was young. I'm like 33 at the time. Jelani's like 3 years old at the time. I have no social proof evidence of what I'm going to do. But I am working with teens a little bit. I only been working with teens like 2 years at the time, and I'm doing my shtick. And this engineer, I'll never forget his name. I never forget him. And he and his wife, he said, Miss Nichols, my wife and I don't have children. We consciously decided not to have children. We don't even know if we like children. I kid you not. He said these words. He said, but you are so on fire and you're so sold out on what you're doing. I feel like it's our fiscal responsibility to be a part of what you're doing. And he invested $25,000 in my company. And so when you talk about that energy, it's that energy of certainty. And so much so, Shawn, that you can say, we haven't figured out the entire path yet. We're still developing our marketing plan. You can even speak to what you're in progress doing. And so that energy of you didn't know, you didn't know, like an energy of certainty versus an energy of wonder. It's contagious and done in an authentic way, not in a way where you're trying to sell someone a shtick, not in a way where you're inauthentic, but in a way where you feel it in your cells. When I was in The Secret, I didn't even know this part of The Secret would become so famous when I said, I know, like I know, like I know. That just got a millions and millions of views that people would just cut that out and replay that. I didn't know it was going to do that. I was speaking of myself. I was speaking of what got me there. I know, like I know, even without the physical evidence. Then I go back, because what I do is I see the outcome with clear detail. I outline the outcome. I outline the deliverables. I outline the results. I outline what people are saying. I outline how they feel. I outline how their life is different. And then I say, well, that's the outcome that I'm going to create. I reverse engineer everything I have to do to get myself there. But I begin with the end in mind, and I hold on to the end at all costs.
You know what? This is powerful. We gotta dive in deeper here, because you just mentioned, so a lot of folks know you, obviously millions of people, from seeing you in The Secret. And this is a film that's really focuses on the law of attraction. Yeah. But for some folks that can sound a little bit unrealistic. But what you just said was, you got to dive in deeper on this. Your level, it's not just I think of this thing and it happens. Your level of specificity is remarkable, what you just talked about. So can you make this law make sense for people?
Absolutely. I would love it. I went on tour for the next 5 years talking about how to make the law of attraction really work in your life. Because so many people said, oh, I could just sit on the couch and dream about it. I said, no, you're just going to have a big butt dent. That's literally what I said on stage for the next 5 years. Like, if you just sit and believe and you focus on the mailbox and a check coming, you better do something to make someone want to pay you. Like that, don't forget that part. And so I said, The Secret was 51 minutes of mindset. If we had another 2.5 hours, we would have told you what you have to do when you get up, right? So when you think about something, number one, I do guided visualizations because you've seen it already. If you should get distracted, you have a visual to go, wait, hold on. This road goes due east. That's not going to get us to what we want due west, because you've seen it already. If you don't have a navigational system in your visualization, a navigational system in your intention, you can end up floundering and going, how did I end up here? And how have I been here for the last 3 years? I talk to people and coach people all the time who said, I just kind of been just living. And normally they live well. So it's not like they're suffering, but they are, in a sense, denying themselves of the future they said they wanted because they didn't see it clear enough. They didn't paint the picture. They didn't say, I want it to be emerald green. So they ended up with aqua blue. And aqua blue is beautiful, but aqua blue is not the color you were going for. That they end up in leadership, but they end up in leadership in an industry that they didn't want to lead in. So watch out. That visualization and that certainty helps to navigate. And then listen to your intuitive energy when you made a turn that will, 2 nauticals east will end you up in the Bermuda versus Bahamas. Like just 2 nauticals, just a couple of yeses too many, or a couple of yeses for the wrong reason, or a couple of no's because you needed more detail. So understanding that and getting that feedback and letting the universe give you feedback when you got to stop, when you need to go, when it's time to release, when it's time to hold on, when you're the leader, when you're the student, listening to that dialogue, listening to that energetic exchange to know when you're what, when you're where, when you need to pause. I remember this gentleman said he wanted to invest $500,000 in my company, but I needed to slow down to speed up. I ended the conversation with him because I didn't want to slow down. 3 years later, I said, now I see what he meant. I needed to slow down back then in order to speed up. He said it. I didn't see it. I didn't slow down. And I went do nauticals to the wrong angle and then had to turn around and slow down and hear. So I needed to, in that moment, be a student and a leader at the same time. I thought I was just leader, right? And so understanding and listening to that intuitive feedback and being willing to go back and go, hold on, let me press reset on that. Hold on. Let me go back and let me reassess. Let me look at where I turned. I know exactly where I turned wrong 3 years ago. Know exactly where that turn was. And I know exactly what it cost me. And I'm okay with that because I'm a sure shot. I'm willing to invest that learning lesson on me. I'm going to come back. No matter what, I'm going to go back in. I'm going to pay the price. I'm going to learn the lesson. I'm going to bring the lesson with me. So I don't fail. You don't fail. Only way you fail is if you get nothing out of it. Then you failed. But if you fail forward, then your next decisions are cumulative of all of your previous lessons. And that's all I say is my next decision is a cumulative of all my previous lessons, good choices and the ones that taught me something.
I cannot let you go without asking you these two things. So, number one, what you're talking about right now requires some time and energy to work on yourself, to develop that self-love and self-care. In my clinical practice, that was the number one reason people would give for not taking care of themselves, not exercising, whatever the case might be. I don't have the time. So can you speak to that? What advice can you give for folks who are in that paradigm that they don't have the time and they're seeing that as the challenge from getting from where they are to where they want to be?
I'm going to ask you a question. Now, I'm going to say this in love from a woman who spent 19 years over 210 pounds, 5 years over 220. So I don't say it from a place of judgment. I didn't even know clavicles existed until 5. I was like, clava who? Clava what? Clava where? That's this little part right here. I heard it's supposed to hold a cup of water and when you're doing good. But anyway, I'm going to ask you this when you say you don't have enough time. I'm going to say, tomorrow you're going to get 24 hours in the day. You know that. You know you're not going to get 23. You know you won't get 25. So my question to you, sister, my question to you, brother, is when will you love you enough to give yourself just one of the 24? You don't run out of time. You simply allocated all your time to someone that you put in front of you. I'm going to follow it with this statement. I say it in love. You will always, as a leader, as a game changer, as a gladiator, you will always have a long line of people waiting to be served by you. You will always. People will knock down your door to get in your line. Here is my question. When will you put yourself at the front of your own line? And I say that because it took a doctor telling me. I was in Utah. My doctor called me on Zoom and said, you are morbidly obese, you're over 220 pounds, you have severe sleep apnea, and you travel over 258 days out the year. And when other people go to work to sit down to work, you go to work and get on stage and push out the little energy that you have from your sleep-deprived body. Lisa, it's not a matter of if you're going to have a heart attack. It's a matter of when will you have it and where will you be. The doctor went on to say, will you be on stage in front of your audience? Will you be in the air on a plane? Will you be at home in front of your son, Jelani? Or will you be in a hotel room by yourself? I thought she was cruel. I thought she was cruel to make me have that kind of fear. And then she followed it with this. She said, the only reason why I'm saying this to you this way is because I've sat in your audience and I've experienced your gift. And I need to disrupt you enough to be radical. And so I'm not disrupting you or poking you for the sake of doing it. It's because someone is ready to be blessed by your gift. Someone is ready to be touched by your soul. Someone's ready. And until you handle the self-care, until you prioritize you, until you move to the front of your own line the way I had to do, you won't be able to give the world all of you that you know you're to do. And my grandmother just transitioned. And my grandmother would say, baby, when you get my age, she was 92 years and 9 months when she transitioned, laid down to rest in peace. And she's resting in peace because she played full out. She said, baby, when you get my age, you're supposed to sit in your favorite rocking chair. And I bought Granny a good rocking chair, y'all. And you're supposed to share the stories of your life. She said, but baby, when you're your age, you're supposed to do one thing. Do everything in your power to make sure that the story is going to be good to share. You are protecting your future memories of yourself. Me being radical about my health, you getting radical about your health, you becoming non-negotiable about your health is about protecting your future memories about yourself. That when you sit in that rocking chair, you want to look back and say, I played full out for me first, and then I served everybody else from my overflow. That's your job. That every day, that's your job. Every day, that's your job. And allow us to witness and be the beneficiaries of you playing full out.
Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here.
Mindfulness, as I study it, has nothing to do with meditation. Meditation is fine, this is just different. It's the simple process of noticing. And when you're noticing, the neurons are firing, and 45 years of research shows that it's literally and figuratively enlivening.